Here we are. Hello, hello. Say hello in the chat if you can hear us. And if you can see my lips move but not hear anything, let us know that too.
Or if you can see him and wish you couldn't, then say that as well. Yo. Hey, Cindy, what's up?
Looks okay, sounds good.
What's with the okay, Rob? Man, great. The top of our game, man. In my head, anyway.
Yeah.
My head. God. Wake up. Don't get too excited, Cindy. You should know by now, Peter and I involved, your expectations should be very low.
I'll speak for yourself.
You know, the old British
self-deprecating humour.
Self-deprecating humour, something like that.
Right. Yeah. Let the foreigner tell you how things are said.
Sure.
Mind you, I now have a British passport, so not so foreigner anymore.
No, indeed. Right, so I'm a firm believer in starting at the time that we say. So already 1 minute over. Welcome to one and all. Hey, Stuart. This is why are we here again? It's the end of a long day. I mean, it's all right for you, Cindy. Like halfway through your Wednesday, we're well over a hump day now and kind of coasting downhill towards the weekend. But we're really excited to be here. Really pleased to see you all on this webinar with us. I'm Peter Daly-Dixon, just in case you didn't know, and the other guy on the call, fellow bearded, balded, bespeckled, I've got 3 P's in there. Peter de Villiers, my partner in crime, and Jean, Peter's brother, is lurking in the background. He's also responsible for what's been going on the last few months. So just very quickly set the scene. What this webinar isn't. This webinar isn't, like I said, Peter and I involved. It's not some slick, uber polished presentation, and certainly there's no sales spiel. What we wanted to do is just to hang out with people that know us, and most of the names I can see in the chat there, and the attendee list are people that I recognize and acknowledge as friends as much as anything else. So really just wanted to hang out with you all just for a few minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes. Well, depends on how many questions you ask. If you don't ask any questions, this could be a world's shortest webinar. But what we wanted to do is obviously been quite a significant time for us the last couple of weeks. So Monday, 24th of February, we launched what is now Macanta CRM, a standalone CRM platform. For anyone that knows anything about Macanta over the last few years, for 4 years, in fact, I realized that today is going to be pretty much 4 years to the day that I came down to see you, Peter, and had what has become Macanta. It didn't even exist as software. I kind of had just jotted some ideas down on paper, and I didn't really even know Peter that well. But we were working together for a guy called Nigel Botterill, and we kind of hit it off, and I obviously recognized something in Peter that made me wanted to go down and just share my ideas with him, and that was really the start of the journey that brought us to where we are now. Well, in fact, it's a pivotal part of the journey, because actually the year before that, while I was working in Nigel's business, Macanta was actually a bespoke custom piece of software that me and my guys wrote for Nigel and his business to solve a particular problem. But I knew that in February 2016, I knew that I was finishing that particular job. So as with most times when something's ending and you know something's got to begin, it's like, well, what do I do? What do I do now? And there was something in what we built for Nigel that made me think that it potentially had legs. Hey, Christian. So I kind of just wanted to talk through my ideas with people. I talked to David Holland, who is a trusted friend and advisor, excuse me, on Cable. And Peter, as I said, was one of those. And you know, I had enough kind of affirmation and confirmation from people that I was kind of on the right sort of lines, and we went at it. And then we worked on what was, you know, became the first version of Macanta, launched that at PartnerCon in October 2016, and the rest, as they say, is history. But for all of that, those 4 years, Macanta very much being an add-on for Infusionsoft. So it was a front end for Infusionsoft. It removed a lot of the complexity and the overwhelm of the interface to make people more productive inside that system. And then we started, you know, building in, you know, more functionality and more features to solve the kind of problems that we realized Macanta was able to solve. And a lot of that problem solving and a lot of that kind of pushing to the boundaries, exploring the edges of what Macanta was possible for was this guy here, Peter. He latched onto it very early on in its life cycle, and started to use Macanta in his own implementation projects with Infusionsoft customers. You know, Peter's a problem solver at heart. He's an engineer. So whenever he came across a problem that wasn't solved in Infusionsoft natively, they're like, how can we use Macanta to make that happen? So fast forward, Peter and I joined forces. We merged our businesses at the end of 2018. 2019 was just full-on Macanta implementation projects, me doing the selling and Peter and Jean doing the implementation. And in that time, we came to realize, firstly, that project-based businesses suck shit. Unless you want to build a project business and build out a team and you've got project managers and you've got project management systems, then it could be great. But we recognized that we were investing time and money and the most precious resources, our own energy, in building a business which we recognized we didn't want to build. But at the heart of that project business was this piece of software called Macanta. But we recognized that if we were going to do the most of what we believed Macanta was capable of, that it had to live on. It had to be able to, you know, if you think of Infusionsoft as a life support system, we had to be able to take it off the life support system and it could live on its own. It could breathe on its own. So Peter took control of that, and for the 9 weeks leading up to 24th of February, Peter was cracking the whip. Metaphorically and virtually, although I'm sure if we all lived in heaven forbid we all lived together, Jesus Christ, can you imagine what that would be like? But if we all worked together, that Peter would have probably had a physical whip. But all that notwithstanding, managed to get it to the start line of the 24th of February. I'm just really excited to have Peter was talking to his wife leading up to the 24th of February and likened bringing this piece of software into the world likened it to childbirth, and not surprisingly, Sophie had none of that at all. No.
That's mainly because she's never tried to launch a piece of software. I've been at I've at least been a not so innocent bystander at 2 births. She has no experience of launching software.
Trouble is,
I've at least seen it done.
Yeah. It's one of those things that neither one of you is going to know what the other. Like getting kicked in the. You talk to a woman about getting kicked in the balls. It's like it's the most painful thing. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Anyway, we digress. We're here. And one of two things was going to happen on the 24th of February. It was either going to be like the sound of crickets and tumbleweed, but I'm just so excited to say that it was the exact opposite of that. And my afternoons since last Monday have been pretty much full of conversations with users and potential users and partners that are now wanting to explore what Macanta, I hate to call it standalone Macanta, but just to differentiate it from the Macanta that was an Infusionsoft add-on, what Macanta is able to do for them and their business. So that's the kind of potted history of Macanta, where we started from, that kind of bespoke custom piece of development for a single client, which then morphed into an Infusionsoft add-on, which is now evolved into a product in its own right. So anyone on the call got any questions about the kind of history, if you like, of where we come from before I hand over to Peter and show you, just give you a glimpse behind the curtain, if you like, of how we at Macanta use Macanta the company, use Macanta the product to help us with the business of our business. So any questions? Speak now, as they say, or forever hold thy peace.
Next half hour.
Say again?
Or at least for the next half hour, hold thy peace.
Next half hour, yeah. Okay.
Cool. Shall I crack on?
Just crack on, yeah. So
I have to try and remember how to drive this thing. Oh, what was the biggest pain you were trying to solve?
That's a great question. Do you want to take it, Peter, or shall I?
We're just going to leave it hanging there. That's just it. I would say, and I'd say this because I can give you loads of technical answers, but the actual real answer is that everything we know about the CRM space and in general business software space, I would say, is that you are trying to run your business using a piece of software designed by people who know nothing about your business. And therefore, a few things can happen in that instance. On the one hand, you end up changing the way you run your business to suit the piece of software you've chosen. And that's very much the tail wagging the dog. Or you end up going from one platform to the next because your business needs change, the business grows, everything like that. Or you come up with as many hacks as possible and clever ideas to make tools that weren't designed to run your business help you run your business. Yeah. And what we believe we've created is the ability for you to create the CRM for your business, and over time the CRM can evolve and change as much as your business evolves and changes.
That's absolutely central to Macanta's philosophy, right from the word go. This sense of Macanta being more like building blocks and Lego bricks that you can put together in the creative and imaginative ways that you want to solve the problems that are the automation and kind of process management problems that are in your business. And just in that as well, Christian, so Christian's question was, what was the biggest pain or problem you're trying to solve? Is this increasing realization that most CRM systems out there are really heavily focused and invested on the C part of CRM, and that's the client, the contact, the customer relationship management. And the problem we found increasingly as we were working with Infusionsoft users is that it's not just so much about automating around the contact and being able to send them, automated emails and text messages and stuff. It's automating around the relationships that contact, that human has with other humans as well as other stuff. So a vet's client has a relationship with its pets, and a real estate broker, the humans in his database have a relationship with the properties that people are seeing and buying and is the attorney for. So you've got all of this from simple to complex network of relationships, at the heart of every business, and yet those relationships are largely ignored by customer relationship management systems. So Macanta solves that problem by allowing you to represent all the data in your business, whether it be properties or for us it's app installs or insurance plans or whatever, and then automate around the relationships that humans have with that other data. So that's really the biggest pain, I would say.
So there you go, Christian. You ended up with the technical weeds that I was avoiding in my answer.
No, it's relationships. We're humans. We understand about relationships. We understand that. Yeah. So, Christian, possibly. Christian said, "Can using Macanta make me a better guitarist?" Listen, mate, I've heard you play. You're already at the top of your game. I wouldn't bother trying to get any better. Anyway, Stuart, appreciate your question. How has Macanta changed since add-on days? And Cindy's asked, what does the new Macanta compare to that's already out there, Salesforce, for example? I'm hoping that as Peter, shows you how we're using Macanta to do the business of our business, that you'll kind of get a feel for that. So I promise I will shut up now, and you can you don't believe me.
I'll address Stuart's question. I think the most succinct way I can is, up until the launch on the 24th of February, Macanta could only work if you also had an Infusionsoft app. It could do it. You couldn't set up an account or anything if you didn't have an Infusionsoft app to connect it to. The version we are now that we've launched can still, if you want, you can integrate it, you can marry it up to Infusionsoft, but it's completely agnostic. You can marry it up to ActiveCampaign, to MailChimp, MailerLite, anything you wish. It's completely standalone CRM, and there's an awful lot you can do with not integrating it with anything else, but it's completely open, but it is agnostic as to what else you want to use for it. So I'd say that's the biggest change. So I'll see if I can remember how to drive this thing. I'm going to try and share the right screen. And you can tell me as and when.
I can see some flashing dots underneath mugs. I know when we did a screen share before on another webinar, I had to refresh my browser and it came up. I might do that now.
Okay.
So if I disappear, that's why. I'm just doing Command R.
Yeah, so if anyone can tell me whether you can see, because I can't tell what you can see, unfortunately, at the moment.
There we go.
Can you see just another version of us?
Yes, I can see the webinar room, yeah, so just get rid of that.
So what can you see now?
I can see Macanta.
Okay, cool. So that's fine. So just to say, if I don't address your questions as they come in, Pete, you can tell me what the questions are, because I now can't see the webinar room. I can just Macanta, so it's as if I'm talking to myself. So a lot of the interface is familiar if you're familiar with Macanta, as it was an add-on, but it is also very, very different in some respects. But I'll give you an overview of what is where in Macanta, and then I'll go into a bit more detail as to how we are actually using it in our own business. And when you log in, you're faced with this. You can go and search. It's all fairly straightforward stuff. You can create, save searches. Users have tasks, lists, create.
Infusionsoft. So can people still see and hear me? So yes. I'm really muffled. I'm still here. Okay, I'm going to plug my um, not less muffled now. Rob. Still muffled. What a cold wall out your ears then, mate. Sounds like I'm underwater. Jesus. Um, if I refresh the browser, it's going to break, isn't it? Not going to hear me. Oh, okay. All I did was just click on the audio video controls. Didn't actually do anything. Yeah, very weird. Well, listen, we're all in the tech world, aren't we? We know that nothing goes according to plan. Webinar gods, they do exist, Rob. Rob just said blame the webinar gods. Absolutely, yeah. So as a what's that joke I saw the other day? I know I can't think. Never start telling a joke if you don't also know what the punchline is at the end. But it was very funny. I laughed when I read it. If I can think of it before the end, I'll do it. Macanta plans to build webinar software also. Yeah, late breaking news. Yeah, hot off the press. Yeah, we're going to do webinar software, and what else are we going to do? What other software do you use in your business that sucks? Okay, Scott asks, while we're waiting, so does the old add-on version of Macanta not work? No, the old version of Macanta does work. And if you submitted a ticket, Scott, and you didn't get a reply, that is on me. So it's a private chat. Scott, only me and Peter can see it. So if you can just type your app name, I'll have a look into that. We did migrate to a new help desk system at the same time as moving, as releasing Macanta, just to be able to cope with both systems. So it might have got lost. I apologize for that. So I'm just going to see if Peter's messaged me in our messaging chat, messaging tool. No, he's not there. So it looks like he's been abducted. Okay, Scott, I've got that. Thanks. I'll look into that for you. No worries, mate. What do we do? Just give me 2 seconds if I can find Peter somewhere else. Okay. No, I can't find him there, but I've remembered that joke. So if you want to hear it, just raise your hand. Just say yeah. Look, it's going to be the biggest anticlimax in the world. So there's a priest, a priest and a minister and a rabbit walk into a bar, and the rabbit says, "Oh, I think I might be a typo." Sorry, they only get worse from you. They really do. I promise you. Peter, come back. All is forgiven. Where did you go? You might have to. Don't make me. Yeah, it's weird for him just to have disappeared completely. He's not even in Zulip. Let me text him. Just give me a second, guys.
Can anyone hear?
Something's changed on the screen.
Yeah, what's happened?
Okay, so we'll stop talking about him, all right?
What's happened?
So I'm getting the flashing circles again, so I'm going to refresh. So if I drop off, that's why I should be back.
Okay, can anyone tell me what's happened? How long was I gone for? How much of what I was talking about did you not get?
Right.
You didn't hear anything?
No. Did you think that you were presenting?
Yeah.
No.
No.
I've been telling jokes and everything.
I've been gone for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, it was really good.
So on that note,
thank you very much.
It was good night from me and good night from him.
So I think
Oh God. Yeah, Christian had just posted. Tell people to click the round. What did you say, Christian?
People or me? The minus sign. Who should click that?
Oh, the minus. No, so once you share your screen,
yeah.
Apparently there's a minus sign, a plus sign or a minus sign that appears there. So Christian says, share your screen first.
Let's just go.
I think it was possibly in response to Anne saying, would you maximize?
Here we go, Chrome tab, share. Can you hear me, Pete?
I can still hear you, yep.
Can you see Macanta?
Not yet, no. It's what happened last time. So I'm just getting the 3 dots. Other people can, I can't. Maybe it's because it's, okay, other people can see Macanta. So I'm going to refresh my screen and come back. Yeah, so there's a minus sign up in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah,
I'm going to click that and see, okay, that reduces our videos and makes the screen big. And now I can't see Macanta yet, so I'm going to refresh my browser and come back.
Okay. Can everyone else see Macanta and hear me? Yay!
Okay.
And okay, Pete, if you have a look on the messages, because I'm not going to switch over to Macanta because at the moment I'm not looking at Macanta.
Okay.
And just see whether you can still hear me and see me.
Okay.
Not me, but Macanta.
Yeah. So yeah, I can.
You can see Macanta.
I can see you. I can see you in Macanta. You're scrolling. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So shall I do that again?
Do that again. Yeah, that was just a rehearsal. It's good. It's good.
Yeah. So okay, the only bit that I can go back. Let's go back here.
Yeah, you started on that first page.
Yeah. So what I was saying, which none of you could hear, is if I'm going too fast, if you've got questions in the meantime, please ask them. Pete, you'll have to read them out to me because I can't see them.
Sure, no worries.
And then we go. So a lot of the elements in the interface are still in the same place and largely do the same things. But because we are now standalone, there are some fundamental changes. So on the home screen, you still have your saved searches. You've got tasks for the users. These are auto-created. And then the Macanta queries you create as you need to based on your data objects and what it is you want to see in those reports. I'll pop over to admin. And what I was saying at the end of my monologue was that what I won't do in this webinar is show you how to build something like this. If you look at the bottom, there is a Macanta knowledge base link, which takes you to the videos and the how-to and everything. But I just wanted to show you on this webinar what we actually use it for and how it functions. But I will do an overview of just what is where and bits and pieces like that. So on the admin tab, obviously you only see that if you are an admin, then you can change the logo. You can build your saved searches and also get your API key for integrations. Custom tabs, now doesn't contain Infusionsoft web forms or anything. We don't pull that information in via the API anymore. So now on custom tabs, whilst you can still build them on the side, it's up to you what you want to put on them in iframes or any content that you want to host there inside the application. And that can still be third-party web forms, anything like that. It's just not pulled in via the API from Infusionsoft as it was before. User management has been overhauled, where user manage used to be based on tags. If you have the right tag in Infusionsoft, then you are a Macanta user or admin. And if you then have any additional tags or don't, then you do or don't have permission access to tabs or sections within data objects, anything like that. So how we're running it now is that you add your users. You can choose whether they're a user or an admin. But then you've got user permission templates that you can create. And I'll start one, but I just won't save it. So what this allows you to do is really to have quite granular control over who has access to what. But you can base it on templates. So if you have an admin position in your business, you can create an admin template. If you have a sales manager position, you create a template for that, or for a sales agent or rep, you create a template for that, so that when a new team member starts, you just apply the template to them, and then they have the same user permissions that you want for that role. If you go and amend a template, then it updates the access and everything for all users with that template. So just to give you an idea of the kinds of stuff, we can give it a name and a description, and then I can say, okay, do you have read-only access to the tab, one of these two tabs on the side, or do you have read and write access? Global access at the moment, that overrides, if you're an admin, that doesn't really do anything, but that interacts with contact view permissions. Whereas if I've got global access to a tab, then it doesn't really matter what contact view permissions there are. I will see that tab regardless. And that's what that's for. And then you've got the same with the data object sections. So we've got these sections, and I can then say, well, okay, you can again have read-only access, read-write access, or global access. And then the same with your saved searches, where again, read-only, so you can see the results, but you can't do inline editing. Read-write, where you can see and do inline editing, and then global access, where you can access whatever you want and amend. So that's how you create your templates, and then whenever you assign a template to a user, then that's the permissions that they will then have. Relationships is where you create your relationships to connect to the data objects for the humans in the whole thing. Connector is where you create the data objects, and automation is where you create the if this then that functions that drives the automation for that. And then we still have, under the notes tab, you've got the notes, which we don't load automatically because it gets to a point where over time you've got loads of notes on a record. When you come and view the record, if we then load 1,000 notes, it just slows the experience down. And the majority of the time when you come to look at a contact record, it is not to review the historical notes. So we give you the option to load it when you need it, rather than forcing that onto the interface. And then on the right-hand side, we still have creating tasks and notes as we had before. And just as an overview, when you sign up for a Macanta app, the notes tab and the admin tab is all you will have. Everything else you create as you need it.
So Peter, we talk a lot, and we've been talking a lot over the last couple of weeks about how Macanta focuses on helping businesses do the business of their business as opposed to the marketing of their business. Is sort of just creating the distinction between marketing automation and what we're calling whole business automation. So I think it might be helpful to show everyone on the call, kind of just give a brief overview of really what the business of our business is, and how we are then using Macanta to help us do that.
Yep, that's fine. So, in short, the business of our business is Macanta. Outside of the development of it is subscriptions and apps and app installs and taking care of that. So we've got a Macanta installs data object that we can use, and we've got our different sections here, which I'll go into. We can attach files to it, to the data object, not to the contacts. And then I can see, I'm looking at me, I'm a Macanta user, as is Erwin, as is Jean, in this example. So I can connect different people to this system here. Then if we look at what we actually use it for, so when an app is first created, when someone signs up for an app, we then come and create this data object against their contact with the right relationship. We put in what their app name is, the URL, the owner email, initial password. We then set a trial date. Macanta's automation then calculates what the trial end date is. And in our instance, the automation then runs that if the trial date is yesterday, then it sets the status to trial expired for that. So that's the kind of automation we do there. We track logins. So whenever a user then logs into their app, this status here changes, and we then record first login, last login. And for us, from a marketing perspective or email automation perspective, how this is then used is we can set it up that if the user has logged in the last 7 days and their first login date is 8 weeks ago, then we can trigger off a survey, and then with them filling the details in, the survey status will change to sent and then completed. Yeah. And then those survey answers can come in here. And just to be clear, we've got multiple people connected here. And what that means is not the left-hand column, but everything else, these fields are contact specific, which means depending on which contact I look at, up here, that's related to this app, these values could be different. Because if you think about the fields on the left-hand side here, if we think about booking a flight, on the left-hand side, it's the flight number, the departure date and time, the arrival time, the destination, the departure, all of that. Everything in these columns is managed like your seat number. Everyone has the same flight number and the same departure time, but everyone's got a unique seat number. So if this was a flight number, yeah, those details would then be. So it could be that for the app owner, their last login is this week and their first login is 8 weeks ago. So we send them a survey, but the person who only joined their business and became a user 10 days ago won't receive the survey yet because they haven't been, in the system for 8 weeks.
Yeah, and the key thing to remember is that a Macanta install is a key piece of data for us in our business, because that is we can't do the business of our business without automating around the Macanta install, about the trial expiry, about when people logged in, as Peter was pointing out there. So the dot joining that you'll need to do when you're looking at this is what is the other data in my business that my business would run more effectively if I could both store all of the information about that extra data, not least of which actually be able to automate around it as well. And seeing this part of the interface now might make some of the user man. Just close this down for me, Peter. Peter showed you the user management earlier, and showed you that you could have different user permission templates being able to access different sections of the data. And the 3 sections shown, not surprisingly, were Macanta, Chargebee, and tracking. And it might be that the tracking tab there, you don't want any users to be able to go in and mess around with the data, because it's part of the system automation. So in which case you just take that off people's people's view. So we're still retaining that key Macanta philosophy of only showing people, the most relevant stuff that they need to see at the particular time that they're working in Macanta.
Yeah, we also took that one step further. So you can use your template to say, in this example, okay, if you're not an admin, you can't see the tracking section. As far as you're concerned, it doesn't exist. But we show you the charge B section, but it's read only. So you can see what these details are, but you can't do anything with them because this is all driven by automation and in and out of charge B via the API. So you want to show people information. So customer service, it would be really handy for them to be able to see when the next billing is going to happen, but I don't want them to be able to change that date. So I can have these fields in this section. I can give someone read-only access. And in fairness, for the most part, in our business, if it's not one of the three of us, then this would be read-only as well, because I don't really want someone to go and mess around with app details or anything like that. And then to just come on a bit more onto how we use this with the automation. At the time when you sign up for an app, we're also firing stuff off to ChargeBee and saying, create this client. And that then gets us the client ID. And we get a subscription ID. And then I'm counting monthly active users. So I'm able to set the automation and say, okay, whenever someone logs in, when a user logs in, increment a number in this field by 1, but don't pay attention to that user for another month. And therefore what it means is the first time within a billing cycle the user logs in, this increments by 1, and then ChargeBee comes and has a look and says, okay, it's due, what's the value in there, that's how many users we can bill for, resets this number to 0, and then it starts counting again because it's a new month. So we've got that back and forth automation and rules between the data here and ChargeBee, which drives our subscriptions.
Yeah. And in terms of rules, Rob's asked a good question. He said, are you automatically calculating things like the trial end date based on when people sign up? Yes, absolutely, Rob, we are. The intuitive if this then that automation. Yeah.
Sorry, say what you were going to say.
Yeah, so just the intuitive if this then that automation builder inside Macanta is where we do that. And if Peter's able to...
It says here, if the trial start date is null, there's no wait in here. We've then got set the trial start date to today, and to show you where those bits are built. So the if is under the conditions, and if I then just say trial start date is null, I've just given it a rule that says trial start date is null. So I can say it's an app owner, it's a Macanta install, and if the app name shouldn't be null, because if the app name's null, it means it's been created by mistake and it's not a real app. So the app name is not null and the trial start date is null. Yeah. That means it meets this condition. So the if has been met.
Yeah. And hang on. Just hold that screen just 1 second. Just scroll down a little bit.
Let me just finish this. So the restart after, which I mentioned with a ChargeBee earlier that doesn't do for 30 days or for a month, is set here because I want this to happen as quickly as possible. It's one of the reasons that motivated us to pull away from the sort of hardwired integration with Infusionsoft is this 15-minute rule in the sequences. Whereas I want this to run really quickly. So I can say restart after 1 minute. In this instance, because the rule is that one field should not be null and the other one should be null. Well, as soon as the automation runs, it's going to set this field to a value, therefore the condition's not met, and I know that it won't repeat. But if I go and clear that date in a month's time because I'm extending someone's trial or giving them a new trial, it'll almost instantly run again and calculate that date again.
Yeah. And what I wanted to say just on that screen, that one just there, before you moved on to the trigger action, is I mentioned right at the beginning that Macanta focuses on the R of CRM, puts the R back into CRM. And right on the screen here, you can see that we're driving the automation around the relationship between the human contact and the data. So the relationship is run, this trigger condition is run on the contact that is the app owner. So you might have 10 contacts that are related to the Macanta install by virtue of being users, but I only want to run this trigger condition is only met when for the contact that is the app owner. So Macanta understands not only who the contacts are and what your data is, but the relationships between the two, and you can automate around them, which is just when you actually get your head around it. The stuff that you realize you're able to automate in a business just blows your mind. I'm amazed by it every time I interact with it.
Cool. So
that's a trigger condition.
Yep. So that's the if. So we're saying if the trial start date is null, and then I've got trigger actions, and then I can say if trial start date is null, I set it to today. So we've got set trial start date today. So here I'm now just saying I've given it a name. Again, it's a Macanta install. It's an app owner again. And then I'm just saying set the Macanta URL. And you can see here I'm able to build the URL using a merge field because and it's the app name of that. I'm setting the trial date just to today. Because it's today is whenever it runs, that date it'll be set, and set the status to trial. And that's then that. So if this, then do that. And the thing to remember is the if this and the then that has nothing to do with each other. They are just building blocks. I can mix and match them and use them multiple times to trigger multiple other things as much as I wish. But that's how you would then set up. That's how we set that date to today. And then there's another one that says set the trial end date. So in this instance, I'm doing the same, and I'm then just saying set the first year anniversary, 12 months, set the trial end date, 7 days, and that then looks at what is the date 7 days from today, or what is the date 12 months from today, and writes it into that field that I've asked it to do. And then just an extension of that is you'll see here we've got action webhooks, and that's where you go and build different webhooks that you want to send to other platforms, be that Zapier, Chargebee, wherever you want to send it to. But that then becomes available as part of your trigger action, where you can then say, well, as well as setting these field values, because that's internal, can you also please send this webhook to wherever I'm sending it to? And in our instance, if I say here, send email day after trial expired, I'm doing it here. I'm not setting any fields, but I'm saying, please send that webhook, send email day after trial expired. And in our instance, we're using MailerLite to send the emails. So this fires a webhook at Zapier, and Zapier then triggers the email in MailerLite.
But watch this space, Peter. Why?
Because come the 20th of March, as you are able to add a webhook action here, there will be a new tab called Email Actions. You'll have a native drag and drop email builder inside Macanta where you can build the emails again as Lego blocks. And then you'll have another drop down here where you can say, okay, when this happens, set these fields to this value, send this webhook out to that application over there. And at the same time, please send this email. And then, of course, you've got merge fields and everything like that. So that'll be ready on the 20th of March.
Yeah.
And we are just extending and continuing. Everything we're going to develop into the platform will be these Lego blocks that you can just keep stringing up and pulling together. So, sorry, Pete, just to go back, all of that ties in together is then if the trial start date is null, set the start date. And then this one here looks at if the trial start date is set, then set the trial end date 7 days in advance. And that's just, and then here I've got to delay because I'm having to make sure that two things don't happen at exactly the same time. So essentially what happens is when the login is triggered, I'm saying set the login date, the last login, to today's date. At the same time, it's then going to set the status to logged in recently, but it waits for a minute because I need the top one to finish before this one can run. And of course, that's 1 minute, and you can put
out of the weeds. Got to bring you right back out of the weeds. Just before we open up for questions, Scott, you asked a question: can the app URL be changed to another Cname? And this is highly pertinent to what we were talking about earlier. Yes, absolutely, it can, in the same way that Macanta at the moment can. So we will definitely be able to bring that into play for the project that we were discussing. And Rob, yeah, thanks. We like Lego too, which was why we kind of using that analogy. So we maybe we went into a little more detail than we expected or wanted to. Like I said right at the beginning, we set the expectation. It's not a polished, slick webinar. We just kind of wanted to hang out and share a bit of our excitement with what we've built and what we're planning to build. Appreciate the questions as they've come in. We've got a few more minutes. We've got the room for a few more minutes. We've got the room for as long as we like, actually, to be honest. But I haven't seen my family for the last few days. I think I might spend some time with them. But is there any other questions from what you've seen or what you'd like to see?
Search contacts.
Christian says search contacts. Yep, that's done the same way as it used to, that search bar.
Sorry,
obviously we're not.
I skipped over the sucking eggs bit.
Yeah. We're just not making API calls to Infusionsoft, so it's a lot faster. Yeah. You don't set a query. Oh, we got the Macanta query builder, Christian. So whereas previously you would set you'd create a safe search in Infusionsoft and then tell Macanta about that safe search, and then give users the tags that were created by telling Macanta about that safe search. All that's cut out. You just create the Macanta query builder, and because you're building it in Macanta knows about the data objects and the relationships, so you can actually build queries that represent the whole of your business as opposed to just the contacts.
But you can also, I think Christian's thing is just how do you search for contacts, and you can search. Can you show how to build a query for a contact, not search? I can direct you to a video in the knowledge bank. I wouldn't start building it now and going into the detail of that.
Yeah. Scott asked a good question as well. He said, "Is there any functionality like the dashboard widgets in Infusionsoft?" The answer is, at the moment, no. But after in fact, maybe actually before we finish the email, we're talking with a client in America, and they want that for their launch. They've got their own launch on the 20th of March, and they're looking at helping us build that in. So just another example, Scott and others, about how Macanta is as it is because of people using it. I joked earlier about Peter using it and kind of pushing the boundaries of what it was capable of, and that's really been Macanta's story all the way through. Users getting it, using it, wanting to do more stuff with it, and then that kind of creating that feedback loop to make Macanta do ever more cool things.
Yeah, it's not us sitting in a dark room thinking, should we add this? But yeah, so how that function would work is that you would still build your safe searches the way you build them today in Macanta, and then you'll just have the functionality on the main dashboard to click a plus and say, well, which one of those do I want to display as a widget, and do the next and do the next. So that's all.
Yeah, it's you're thinking. Great minds think alike, as they say. So that is definitely on the roadmap and coming. So thanks, Anne. We're proud, and thank you, Anne, for your contributions and input into where we are and where we've got to and where we're going. It's a privilege to know you and work with you. So here endeth the first lesson according to Macanta. Gospel of Macanta.
Cool. Well, if there are no more questions, I'm going to go and have a whiskey.
Good for you, mate. Thanks for joining us, guys. Looking forward to the rest of the journey with you. And yeah. And Rob, we still need to get up and see you now that we're launched and got this over and done with. We'll make that happen. Yeah, have a whiskey together.
Cool.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
So just one last thing. Same time next week, Wednesday, the 11th of March, 8 o'clock GMT, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, will be the first of our webinar case studies, where we, over 90 minutes, 120 minutes, we work with the business to map out and build whatever can be built within that time frame. We can do a lot in 2 hours, but there's obviously a limit. So, Anne, you want to be a case study? Ooh, sweet. What do you think?
Yeah, we can do that, certainly.
Yeah, of course we can. So yeah, put it. Putting your diaries. Will obviously be in touch with registration links and stuff. It'll be good to share that cool stuff with you. Until then,
cool. See you later.
Adios, amigos. Bye now. How do I get out?